Thank you for tuning into today's vlog. And what I decided to review today is the Pythagorean Theorem. Sometimes I write P theorem because Pythagorean takes a while to write, so I get lazy and write P theorem. On the Pythagorean Theorem, I just want to review the basics of the Pythagorean Theorem. First, I'd like to introduce the fact that a man named Pythagoras, a long time ago, discovered that one side of a right triangle, of course, I'm going to use color. I'm a visual learner, so I like to use color sometimes, and I hope that'll be able to help you all as well. But one side of a right triangle squared plus another side of a right triangle squared will equal the largest side of that right triangle squared. And that was formerly known as the Pythagorean Theorem. The Pythagorean Theorem has an actual equation. The equation is fairly simple. It is a squared plus b squared equal c squared, in which c is the hypotenuse, which is the longest side. B is just a leg, and A is just a leg. These two legs together squared equals the hypotenuse, as I just previously drew. When using a Pythagorean theorem, usually they give you two sides, and then they'll ask you to basically come up with the third side of the right triangle. Let's do one for example. Okay, so for this first example, we don't have A, but we know B is 4, and we know C is 5. Let's also put this to the side on a triangle so that way we can visualize what it would look like. Give me a brief moment. Okay, so given the previous equation, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we know that we don't have a, so we'll just leave it as is for right now because that's what we're looking for, plus b squared, which would be 4 squared, equals c squared, which is be 5 squared. Alright, 4 squared is 16. 5 squared is 25. Now, the first thing is, in order to get a squared alone, we have to minus 16 on both sides. And after we minus 16 on both sides, we'll have, need some more room here, so that's why I'm erasing the top. We'll have a squared equal 9. Now we have to get a by itself. And what we do is we'll square root both sides. The square root of a, of course, is a. The square root of 9 is 3. So a would be 3. And that's all you basically do when you're trying to figure out the Pythagorean theorem. In the event that you're missing B, you would do the same thing as far as minusing A on both sides once you get C. And if you had C that you had to figure out, you would just add A squared plus B squared, and that would be the answer. Now, sometimes you get real life situations because the Pythagorean theorem can be applicable to real life situations. And sometimes real life situations can be a tad bit confusing because they don't give you a triangle. They just give you numbers with words. So let's just do a word problem. For example, I have one for you. My first tutoring tip, when you have word problems, it's definitely best, especially when it comes to the Pythagorean Theorem, to draw the situation out. Drawing the situation out helps you visualize what actually is going on, what they're actually looking for. I always draw the situation out, always. It's easier for me that way. Okay, so the word problem is Tyra needs a ladder to reach her window. Okay, so we know that Tyra has a house. She needs a ladder to reach her window. If the ladder is placed 5 feet away from the house and her wall is 12 feet, how long will the ladder need to be? Okay, so let's draw this. This is Tyra's window. That's her wall. This is the floor or the ground. And this is the ladder. I'm not an artist, by the way. Okay, so let me reread it so that way everyone can be sure to follow along. Tyra needs a ladder to reach her window. So we know that that's her window, and she needs a ladder to reach that. If the ladder is placed 5 feet away from her house, so that means the distance from her house to the ladder is 5 feet. We have one piece of the puzzle. And her wall is 12 feet. So that means from the ground to her window is 12 feet. Then how long will her ladder need to be? Okay. So now we have a depiction of what we need to do. Now we're looking for the height of the ladder. Looks like the hypotenuse, C. After you draw it, you can definitely tell that that's C. Now let's make it applicable to our equation. 5 squared plus 12 squared equals C squared. Now all we do is do the equation accordingly. 5 squared is 25. 12 squared is 144. In the event that you don't know the squares, just multiply it out. It would be best to multiply it out on the side than to try to do it in your head, because that way you'll confuse yourself, and of course you'd rather be safe than sorry. It's not really about getting it fast or anything of that nature. It's just about getting it right. 25 plus 144 is 169. 169 is C squared. We're looking for C. The square root of C squared would get us C, so the square root of 169 is 13. So to answer the question, the ladder needs to be 13 feet in order to reach the bottom of Tyra's window. And that's how you would basically do a word problem. Sometimes they get a little bit more wordy than the word problem that we did, but you would still do it in that same method. Figuring out how to draw it, applying it to the equation, and breaking down the equation accordingly. Alright, that's it, folks. And if you have any additional questions, you can definitely contact me on the blog. I hope I answered all questions, and I hope that you got what you needed out of this blog. You have a nice one. Good night.